Welcome back to the channel, coin collectors and history buffs. Today, we're diving deep into the story of one very special coin that has caught the attention of numismatists, casual collectors, and even some investors, the 2002 Indiana State Quarter Dollar, a part of the legendary 50 State Quarters program. But what makes this particular coin, the one with the Roosevelt Mint Mark D, so intriguing? Why is it being bought and sold for over $100 today, while most quarters barely exceed face value? To understand that, we're going to take a journey, not just through minting history, but through American heritage itself. This isn't just about a coin. It's about the story it tells, the state it represents, the people who collect it, and the subtle, sometimes overlooked details that transform ordinary currency into a valuable treasure. Let's rewind for a moment. The year is 2002. The United States Mint is halfway through its bold and wildly popular initiative, the 50 State Quarters program, launched in 1999. The idea was simple yet brilliant. Each state would be honored with its own unique quarter design, released in the order they ratified the Constitution or were admitted into the Union. By doing so, the U.S. Mint didn't just issue currency, it told stories, sparked patriotism, and turned everyday transactions into miniature history lessons. Kids and adults alike began collecting them. Suddenly, pocket change became a kind of treasure hunt, and in 2002, 5 states were featured: Tennessee, Ohio, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Indiana. Now, Indiana, the 19th state, admitted into the Union in 1816, was one of those featured. And the coin that bore its name became one of the most memorable and ultimately one of the most valuable from the entire series. But not all Indiana quarters are created equal. The design encapsulates that sense of movement and centrality, and, of course, there's the date, 1816, the year Indiana became a state. For those who know their U.S. history, that's right in the thick of post-revolutionary growth, as the nation expanded westward. Indiana was part of that westward push, bringing settlers, industry, and eventually, a whole lot of cultural flavor. But what about the mint mark? You've probably heard coin collectors talk about it, letters like P, D, or S tucked somewhere near the date or the rim. These small details tell you where a coin was minted. In our case, the D stands for Denver. The U.S. Mint operates multiple facilities, and the Denver Mint is one of its major production centers. Coins from Denver often circulate widely, but certain years, certain runs, and certain errors make Denver minted coins more valuable. Now, the 2002 Indiana quarter with the Roosevelt Mint Mark D isn't rare just because it came from Denver. It's rare because of what happened during that minting process. Some of these coins feature unique characteristics, slight errors in strike, planchet anomalies, or even subtle design shifts. It's these features that turn an ordinary coin into a collector's item. These might sound like imperfections, but in the coin world, they're golden. Because once those errors are discovered, and confirmed by reputable grading services, they drastically increase a coin's value. But the Roosevelt Mint Mark D reference also introduces a layer of confusion, which is part of why this coin has become so talked about online. Technically, Roosevelt is not a mint location. It's a nod some collectors use informally to refer to a Denver Mint coin that features characteristics found on Roosevelt dime errors, like ghosting or doubling, similar to that seen in some 2000s dime batches. In numismatic circles, terminology can evolve and get creative. Coins like the 2002 Indiana D quarter exist at the perfect intersection of nostalgia, artistry, and economic potential. For those who grew up in the early 2000s, these quarters are a reminder of simpler times. Maybe you remember checking your change after buying snacks at a gas station, or saving up quarters in a collector's map with little round slots for each state. Condition matters. A 2002 Indiana quarter pulled straight from circulation, covered in scratches and dulled from handling, isn't likely to be worth more than 25 cents. But a pristine one, especially with an error and the D mint mark? That's a different story entirely. Now, you might be wondering, how many of these valuable coins are out there? That's the million-dollar question. Over 300 million Indiana quarters were minted in Denver alone in 2002. So by sheer volume, it sounds common. But only a tiny fraction show the unique Roosevelt D characteristics, and even fewer are in near-perfect condition. When rarity meets quality, value skyrockets, and now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the value reveal. Just how much is this 2002 Indiana Roosevelt Mint Mark D quarter worth? Currently, collectors have paid up to $111 for this coin in certified high mint state condition with specific minting errors. That's right, $111 for a 25-cent piece. Not a bad return on investment, right? And as with all collectibles, value can fluctuate. The more buzz a coin gets, the more its price can rise. As more collectors enter the market, demand increases, especially for verified rare variants. Some experts even suggest that the value of these coins could rise in the coming years as the generation that grew up with the state quarters becomes the next wave of serious collectors. It's small, silver-toned, and often taken for granted. A simple coin you might find rattling around in a drawer, under a couch cushion, or forgotten in an old piggy bank. But some coins aren't just pocket change. They're pieces of history, silent witnesses to the nation's journey, symbols that hold stories deeper than their metallic shine. And among them, one coin stands out, not for being made of gold, not for being ancient, but for the quiet legacy it carries, the 1776 to 1976 United States Bicentennial Quarter. To most, it's just a quarter. 25 cents. A coin minted to commemorate America's 200th birthday. But for collectors, numismatists, and history enthusiasts, this little piece of metal tells a much bigger story. It represents revolution, unity, celebration, and a moment frozen in time. And in rare cases, like the one we're going to uncover, it can be worth far more than just 25 cents. How much more? Well, you'll want to stick around for that. Let's start our journey in 1976, but to understand the full significance, we have to rewind even further, to 1776. It was the year the American colonies declared independence from British rule. A group of visionaries, bold and determined, gathered in Philadelphia to shape a new nation. That moment laid the foundation for the United States of America. 2 centuries later, in 1976, the country celebrated the bicentennial, 200 years of independence, growth, conflict, triumph, and transformation. To mark that monumental occasion, the U.S. Mint did something unusual. It broke from tradition. Typically, U.S. coins bear the year they were minted, but in this case, quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins carried a dual date, 1776 to 1976. This was more than a timestamp, it was a tribute. A tribute to the nation's resilience, its enduring values, and its long journey from colonies to a world power. Behind the drummer, a victory torch rises, symbolizing liberty and the enduring flame of freedom. 13 stars encircle the design, representing the original 13 colonies. It's bold, patriotic, and deeply rooted in symbolism. And across the top, the familiar yet powerful Latin phrase appears, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. That phrase, found on many U.S. coins, reminds us of the country's core principle, unity in diversity. On the obverse, or front side, of the coin, President George Washington still reigns, his profile facing left, a familiar and steadfast symbol of leadership. But even here, there's a subtle difference. Beneath Washington's profile, instead of a single year, are the twin dates, 1776 to 1976. These dates are what set this coin apart in American numismatic history. It is not just a monetary piece, it's a bicentennial memento. Now, what makes this coin even more fascinating is the variety of ways it was produced. The United States Mint struck bicentennial quarters in multiple forms: copper-nickel clad for circulation, 40% silver clad for collectors, proof versions, and uncirculated sets. Each type had its own appeal, and its own mint mark, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and no mark for Philadelphia. In all, over 1.6 billion bicentennial quarters were minted, making them relatively common. Let's not forget the story behind the coin. Collectors often seek not just material rarity, but emotional resonance. This coin doesn't just represent monetary value, it represents a nation's 200-year journey from a bold experiment in democracy to a powerful and complex republic. It was the coin people received as change during America's Grand Bicentennial celebration. A time of parades, fireworks, red, white and blue patriotism, and reflections on a revolutionary past. Today, one of these coins, in remarkable condition, perhaps pulled from a mint set and never touched by bare hands, has achieved something extraordinary. It's been valued at $109. Yes, a single quarter. A coin meant to be worth 25 cents. But because of its pristine condition, historical significance, and appeal to collectors, it's now worth over 400 times its face value. Every coin is a time capsule. A silent observer to the world it circulates in. The 1776 to 1976 quarter saw America during its 200th birthday, a time of both reflection and celebration. And today, nearly 50 years later, it reminds us of where we've been, and perhaps, where we're headed. So, the next time you see a quarter with that drummer boy on the back, take a moment to really look at it. You might be holding a tiny piece of history in your hand. And who knows? If it's in just the right condition, with just the right details, it might be worth far more than 25 cents. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of US coins. If you enjoyed this story and want to uncover more hidden treasures in your own change jar, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a story. Who knew pocket change could be so rich? And now, as promised, the value. The rare 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter, in mint state 67 condition, recently sold for $109. That's right. From pocket change to prized collectible. So maybe it's time to check your collection. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and keep the story alive. Thanks for joining us today as we explored the story, the design, the details, and the surprising value of the 1776 to 1976 e pluribussinum state quarter. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another journey into the world of coins, collectibles, and American history. And if you've got a rare coin you'd like